Hey, welcome back. I forgot to mention that I'm trying a little new thing with the sound. It's probably going to sound annoying. It's called a noise gate. So like you might hear periods of silence and then me talking to try to help with that buzzy noise. It doesn't really work, but I don't know how to fix it. If anybody is new watching and they know how to fix it, please tell me. I don't know what I'm doing. I mentioned that yesterday. I can mention it again today. What if someone watches and this is their first video? What am I doing? I don't know. I've been doing this for 3 years. Every day. I don't know what I'm doing. I talk about my week and what I've done, mostly, and any anxiety stuff that I've felt. I talk about religion, because I'm a Christian, but I'm like, not really. I mean, I go to church every week, but I'm not very spiritual. That's kind of what I decided recently. I'm not like a spiritual person, but I like the connection that religion brings, or something. I talk about inflation. I have an inflation note. You want to talk about inflation? It's not really interesting, but well, not inflation, but just like the stock market, because I got stocks and they're not doing great. This has been a rough week for the stocks. And bitcoins. I don't have bitcoins. But it's a good thing because they're no good. I don't think the Bitcoin should not be worth $30,000. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, if you're new here, I don't like Bitcoins. But I doubt anybody new is gonna come. But I'm glad I did the podcast, and I don't know when it's coming out. Maybe next week. I am interested to see what I sound like on a podcast talking to another human. So that's why I do this, is because if I didn't do this, I would never talk to anybody about anything, really. I would talk to my parents about, like, church or something, and that would be it. But I wouldn't talk, like, super candidly about how I'm feeling because I don't have anybody else to talk to about that stuff. Maybe my therapist a little bit, but that's only 1 hour a week. And you know what? I kind of like doing this. It's not too bad. Of course I like doing this. I wouldn't be doing it every day for 3 years if I didn't like it. I definitely did this part before. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I'm doing it again. Who cares? Hey, what are you doing? I need to get into that scorpion. Okay. Yeah, I haven't really liked the I watched a little bit of the Halo show. It's not great. What's my note? What if? Oh, so this is kind of a religion note. And I've already kind of talked about this, but that's what I do here. I repeat myself because, I mean, how you have 1,500 videos. You can only talk about stuff so much, but there might be a little bit of a new take on this. Stop shooting me. What if everything you've known your whole life is wrong? So there's this common thing that I feel like I'm seeing. I watch a lot of YouTube videos where it's like, I used to be a Christian, and now I'm an atheist. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like listening to them talk. A lot of them are obviously, like, they used to be fundamentalists, and I'm like, yeah, if I was a fundamentalist, I would leave too, because it sounds terrible. Being like a normal, regular Christian is not very hard. You just go to church and you're just normal. You don't have to, like, do anything crazy. You just gotta, like, love Jesus or something. I don't even know. What'd I do? So I've mentioned this thing before that, like, I think, so a lot of the time they'll say something like, and even like someone who used to be, I don't know exactly how to, you'll understand what I'm saying when I start talking about it, but, so there are a lot of people who used to be Christians who are now atheists, and there are also a lot of people who used to be atheists who become Christians. And the thought that I had before, it was a long time ago, it was like, if you grow up as a Christian, then this new world, like when you reach your 20s and like when you become an adult, there's this new world that you've never experienced before that seems like new knowledge, and it's exciting to feel like you're being smarter because you're learning something brand new. Like, oh, I don't have to be a Christian this whole time. I could curse if I wanted to, or something like that. And the same thing is like the other way around is like if you're an atheist and you become a Christian, you feel like you've discovered this, like, oh my God, like I'm connecting to this spiritual thing that I never even knew before, and nobody ever told me about God, and it feels like new knowledge. You feel like you're getting smarter, and that's why I think people often say something like, well, I grew up my whole life like a Christian, and so it was really hard to become an atheist because I was a Christian my whole life. But I think there's an aspect that's kind of easy about it. Not easy, but that feels good to learn something or become a new person when you become older. Does that make sense? We all want to feel like we've grown and we've changed and we've become these better, smarter people. And so if you grow up as a Christian, to become like this smarter person, you'd become an atheist, like because you weren't. I think when I was talking about it before, I was saying like being a Christian seems childish, and I felt that too. Is like because when I was a kid, I was a Christian, and you'd hear all these like cool stories, and you're like, oh, being a Christian is like childish, and being an atheist is like, oh, I'm smart and I know everything. There's a verse in the Bible too that's like, when you grow up, you put childish things behind. But what's childish to you is relative. If you're an atheist when you're a child, I've definitely said this before. If you're an atheist when you're a kid, being atheist seems childish. If you're a Christian, being a Christian seems childish. So I think I do have to be. That's why I don't ever go like full-blown atheist, because I'm like, oh, I push back against that. Like, well, you just want to seem smarter, and you just want to seem like you've grown since you were a kid or something. Do you have a rocket launcher for me? But we're all just stupid idiots and we don't know anything. That's the whole point of this whole channel. This is your first time. That's the point of the channel. We don't know what we're doing, and we're just trying to figure it out, and we're all stupid. Except Dalton, he's smarter than me. Because he wrote a book and I didn't. Read Dalton's book if this is your first time. I haven't read it yet, sorry. I haven't gotten into reading actual, the papery things. I still just do audiobooks. But when I start reading books, I do want to start doing that. And when I do it, Dalton's book will be the first one that I read. I promise. I am actually interested to read it because, I don't know. I've never known somebody and then read a book after I knew them, so that would be interesting. I hope I don't hate it. I won't hate it. That's not possible. It's like if you saw me do improv and you knew me, you'd be like, "Oh, that was so good," because like you know me and you like me. But even if it was terrible improv, that scene where you were a turkey, that was so smart. How did you think about doing that? And the whole Thanksgiving thing, that was amazing. Ah, don't lie to me. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, sorry. I'm just. I didn't remember that, like, if you don't make it to the end of the level, you have to replay the whole level. That's interesting. Oh yeah, so just one last point about that was, I think I mentioned this before too, but like my dad grew up, he was a Catholic, but like the kind of Catholic where you just don't really you just go to church and you don't really care. And then he became a Christian, and I think he felt like it was like this big miraculous thing for him because he's like, oh, I lived my whole life and everybody was all living the same way. And then I went to church and I was like, oh, they're living differently and they're like experiencing like this higher thing, like this new knowledge. And then I got to be a part of that. And so that's when I grew up and when I learned. But like, what happens when you're a Christian your whole life and growing up? What does that mean? You become even more of a Christian? It doesn't really work that way. To me, the new knowledge seems like atheism because I was never really around that as a kid. My entire family is Christian. So if I wanted to grow as an adult, I would become an atheist. Like, I'm like, oh man, I'm becoming so much smarter and I'm reading all these atheist books or whatever. Because it's something I never I was never exposed to as a kid. So it seems like I'm getting smarter, and like I'm. Does that make any sense? I just keep that in mind when I'm like, oh, I should become an atheist. Well, whatever. I mean, maybe, but who cares? I don't know. Like, it's not new knowledge that you're discovering. It's just like, okay, whatever. Like, throughout history, atheist, Christian. Oh, I keep dying. I can't be in the scorpion. It is what it is. Like, I mean, everybody is always trying to figure it out for themselves, and they're trying to figure out their own path and do what feels right for them, and that's what I'm doing. But sometimes what feels right for them is like it's a trick or something. In my head, it feels like a trick. Like you think it feels right for you because you had this perspective as a kid, and now you feel like you're getting smarter, so it feels right to be an atheist now for you. And it would feel right for me if I didn't also have this other thought on top of the other thought of like, well, wait a minute, you just think it feels good because you were a Christian when you were a kid, and now it feels good to learn a new perspective, but that doesn't mean that it's true or I don't know. I mean, is anything true? I don't know. What is truth, like Pontius Pilate said? I like that guy. If I was in the Bible, I would be Pontius Pilate. Nobody's ever said that before. I really connected. No, I would be Solomon, right? Ecclesiastes was my favorite book. But Pontius Pilate interviews Jesus and he's like, who are you? Like, why are these people following you? And Jesus is like, I don't know. I am what they say I am. I am, the guy. I'm him. So what do you want to do? And Pontius Pilate is like, what? What are you talking about? I am like God, kind of, and that's the truth. And then Pontius Pilate's like, what is truth? And I'm like, yeah, what is truth? I don't know. That's a good question. And there is an answer to that question at a lower level, like, do I like Halo? What's the truth about that? Oh yeah, I like Halo. That's the truth. But when you get tied to higher levels of what is truth, there is no answer. Does God exist? What's the truth? There is an answer, but nobody knows it. So I guess you could go even higher than that and say, is anything real? What's the truth? I don't know. Maybe we're all in the windfish's dream. I don't know. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.